And joining us now to dive into the history of political violence and the underlying ideology is Trevor Loudon. He's an author, filmmaker, and public speaker. For more than 30 years, Loudon has researched Marxist and terrorist movements, as well as the influence of the Chinese Communist Party. Trevor, as always, thank you so much for joining us. To begin, talk to us about the rise of radical left-wing extremism online. There's been a significant amount of celebration over Charlie Kirk's assassination, and from that, some people have gotten fired. In your view, how did we get to this point?
Well, it's very easy for the left to say, well, we've got to tone down the rhetoric, we've got to, calm down. It hasn't been the conservative movement that's been using extreme rhetoric. It's been the left that has driven this all the time. And now that it's become a political liability for them, now that an extreme left-winger has assassinated somebody, and this is not the first incident. We've had attacks by Antifa on groups on an ice station in Texas. We've had Black Lives Matter, a Chinese aligned organization, rampaging through the streets. We've had a young couple gunned down by a former communist in the streets outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., and multiple other attacks. This is coming from the left because the left works with the Chinese and the Iranians and the Venezuelans and the Russians. And all of them want to cause instability in America. All of them want to drive the country into civil war. So they use their bot farms, they use their organizations on the street, their Communist Party USA, their Party for Socialism and Liberty, Party for Liberty and Socialism, their Democratic Socialists of America, their Freedom Road Socialist Organization. They're using these organizations, they're using bots, they're using websites to drive students and young radicals to the left. And at the same time, they're pushing. They get a reaction, and when they get a reaction, they blame it all on the right. But that's the game. That's the game they have played for 100 years now. So I don't really accept the sincerity of some of these Democratic spokesmen. It really rings true because they weren't saying any of these kind of things during Black Lives Matter. It's now because it's embarrassing to them because the show of support for Charlie Kirk is so massive. They know they've overplayed their hand a little bit, so they're backing off. But this is not sincere.
To your point, Ron Reichlich talks about that in his book, Disinformation. And to your earlier point, Utah's governor was warning of China and Russia using bots to spread disinformation online after the assassination to heighten divisions in the country. Ooh. Talk to us about the communist influences we're seeing here and in the past.
Well, we're seeing the radical left. We're seeing Antifa, Democratic Socialists of America, the Palestinian youth movement. We're seeing all these people, the traditional left, working with a lot of the Islamic groups, trying to push a debate to the left. And that's really gone up in scale since the trouble broke out in Israel, since the attack on October 7th. But what you're also seeing is a lot of pro-Russian websites are promoting, like trying to tell conservative people, we need a civil war, we need a civil war. They are pushing on the right to get extreme reactions. So it's absolutely right. There are the Russians and others, the Iranians, are promoting a lot of stuff to try and push this country into civil war. And this is what Vladimir Dugin, the Russian philosopher, the Putin's brain, has been saying for some years. He wrote books in the 90s. He's still doing this now. He's doing this right now. We need to push America into civil war. We need to exacerbate the racial and political differences in America to push the country into civil war. Alexander Dugin. And he has followers in this country, in the American Communist Party, some of the little fascist groups that are here, all trying to push both right and left to more and more and more extreme stances to to basically create a civil war. One of the main things they're doing now, this is one of the main Russian operations, they're pushing out the meme that Israel was behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It was Israel that did it because they're trying to get, they've already driven a lot of hatred against Israel in the left and the Democratic Party. Now they're trying to create hatred against Israel in the conservative movement. So this is, you see this coming from all the Russian websites. Israel did it. It was really Israel that killed Charlie Kirk. This is an example of the propaganda aimed to divide us, to split us away from Israel, to divide the US right, to divide left versus right, just to create chaos and anarchy. Russia and China cannot dominate the world unless they drive America into civil war. That's their plan.